Vasudevaya. We're reading a few verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam today, the 39th chapter, entitled Akrura's Vision. I hope I got the right chapter, verse 33 to 37. So I will share my screen and we will go over those verses if I can find it. Here we go. Can you see that? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so the Sanskrit for verse 33 goes, Kopas tam avasajanta nandaya sakataistata adayo pa yanam buri kumban yo rasa sambritam. So this is a continuation of Akrura, who gets really bad press in this chapter from the gopis, leading Krishna and the Gopas, led by Nanda Maharaj, to Mathura. So led by Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men followed behind Lord Krishna in their wagons. The men brought along many offerings for the king. After all, he's the king, even though he's Kamsa, including clay pots filled with ghee and other milk products. One second, let me just minimize something here so I can see the, there we go. Okay. With his glances, Lord Krishna somewhat pacified the gopis, and they also followed behind for some time. Then, hoping he would give them some instruction, they stood still. As he departed, that best of the Yadus saw how the gopis were lamenting, and thus he consoled them by sending them a messenger with this loving promise, which was some ways fulfilled and some ways not fulfilled. I'm sure other speakers have talked about that. He said, I will return. Sending their minds after Krishna, the gopis stood as motionless as figures in a painting. They remained there as long as the flag atop the chariot was visible, and even until they could no longer see the dust raised by the chariot wheels. So maybe some of us have had that experience, sending somebody, a loved one, off at an airport and just staying as long as you see the airplane go into the clouds. The gopis then turned back without hope that Govinda would ever return to them. Full of sorrow, they began to spend their days and nights chanting about the pastimes of their beloved. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vancha Kalpa Turubhyascha Kripasindubhyeva Cha Patikanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We can learn a lot if you ever have gone, let me see if I can, there it is. If you ever have gone to an international arrival in an airport. Henry is on this call and he knows the international arrivals very well because he picks me up there a lot at the airport. And you see, I mean, the children here at the bottom of the picture don't seem very anxious, but you see the anticipation of the feelings of separation that are soon going to become samboga, or connected. Of course, not really samboga. That's a term for the transcendental Leela of Krishna and his beloved in the spiritual world. But we get a glimpse of the anticipation. I like to go early when I'm picking somebody up from international arrivals in Washington D.C. because I don't know if it's the same. Some of you are from New York, JFK. I don't know. They do have international arrivals, but they may also have arrivals in the various terminals. But here it's all focused on one. So you get an airplane coming from the Middle East, an airplane coming from India, from China, from all over the world, and you can see the anticipation in the faces of the people, and for me it gives me just a little glimpse, not a full picture, because examples of this world don't obviously fully match, or I don't know if it's obvious, but they don't fully match they give us a glimpse of the emotions that we read about, for example, in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It has a name for it, Saka Chandra Nyaya, or you tell a child that they say, "Where's the moon?" Oh, you say, "You see, it's right through those branches of that tree." Now, obviously, the moon's very, very far away, but something close, the branches of the tree, give us some glimpse of something far away. So similarly, the emotions that here we're hearing about the gopis are feeling towards Krishna, we get some glimpses in this world. And now I'm going to really embarrass myself, because for me, my mind works a little bit like, I think I may have mentioned this before, like a 1970s or 60s jukebox. And I wish I remembered verses as well as I remember songs from when I grew up. So I'm going to try to dovetail some of my knowledge of songs into this Saka Chandra Nyaya, the idea that we can get some glimpse of the emotions. And then we'll carry on. The whole talk is not going to be about songs from the 70s or 60s. But for example, the gopis are remembering, right, the flute playing of Krishna. And there was a movie that came out called Grease, and also it was a Broadway show. I think I saw it on Broadway when I was a kid. But the singer is remembering, it's called Those Magic Changes, and he's remembering, what's that playing on the radio? Why do I start swaying to and fro? I have never heard that song before, but if I don't hear it anymore, it's still familiar to me, sends a thrill right through me, cause those chords remind me of the night that I fell in love to those magic changes. And then he goes on to talks about a little bit more about separation. I'll be waiting by the radio. You'll come back to me someday, I know. Been so lonesome since our last goodbye, but I'm singing as I cry, yai. But it gives us some glimpse of the gopis here. They're having anticipatory separation, because they're still, until they see the chariot go off into, and then no longer they see the dust that it's pulling up as it drives away, or the flag, as we read. So they're feeling anticipatory separation. That reminded me of a song by what's that guy's name? John Denver, right? Where, called "Leaving on a Jet Plane." And of course, those who are younger won't know what I'm talking about, but that's okay. You can still go back to God. All my bags are packed. I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye, but the dawn is breaking. It's early morn. The taxi's waiting. He's blowing his horn. Already, I'm so lonesome I could die. So again, he can still say goodbye to her, but he's feeling that anticipatory separation. And they even talk about, a little bit like, the gopis will remember Krishna and the things they do. So many times I've let you down. So many times I played around. I tell you now, they don't mean a thing. Every place I go, I think of you. Every song I sing for you. When I come back, I'll bring your wedding ring. So that is definitely, right? Every place I go, I think of you. Every song I sing for you. That could easily be the gopis. Now, again, I want to reiterate that they give us a glimpse of something very far away, the pure, pristine love that the gopis feel for Krishna. And interestingly, in John Denver's song, he's the one he's leaving and he's feeling the anticipatory separation. And we read about how Krishna, even when he's with his great, great devotees in Dwarka, his wives in Dwarka, he's with Vasudev, he's with Ugrasena and other great devotees in Mathura, he's always thinking of the gopis. It's not one way. Matter of fact, sometimes it's said it's even more intense. That sometimes when the queens aren't seeing him, and sometimes they do see him, he's just crying in separation. And he's in Mathura and looking towards Vrindavan, and that's for another class, the reasons why he couldn't go back there in his Prakat Lila. Aprakat Lila, the unmanifest to the eyes Lila, Krishna doesn't take a step outside of Vrindavan. But the point here that I wanted to kind of focus on a little bit more is we can learn things from this world that we can that can help us see and think of Krishna. It just takes, because Krishna does this several places, 7th chapter, and especially the 10th chapter of the Gita. He gives us ways of seeing him in this world. I am the taste of water. I am the ability in man. I remember one devotee this was years ago, was saying how unbelievably good Tiger Woods was at golf. And I said, okay, so every time you see Tiger Woods doing great at golf, remember Parusham Nishu, Krishna's ability in man. Now, I should be checking the chat. It looks like there's some people who are chatting, and I'm not. Sorry about that. But if there's anything from the chat, by the way, I think, if you have a question or comment, you don't have to wait till the end. Either go off of mute or somebody tell me it's in a chat, because it's hard to get the class.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, there's
Yes,
a quote in the Buddhist tradition. Lord Buddha says, I'm pointing to the moon and my disciples are looking at my finger.
Yes.
You're right, there's an extrapolation that sometimes is supposed to happen, it doesn't. But anyway, the extrapolation helps us to go in the right direction.
That's a good one. Thank you. I'll have to remember that. Thank you, Prabhu. I appreciate that. And of course, these people are, John Denver and whoever wrote the song from Greece. They're more likely than not absorbed in sense gratification. Although it is interesting in the 3rd chapter of the Nectar Devotion, under the qualifications for taking the adhikar, or the qualifications for taking up bhakti, it's sometimes said that we may think that vairagya or renunciation is a prerequisite for devotional service, but it's not. As a matter of fact, devotional service is independent, and it can even be an impediment, because if we've really blocked our heart off from emotions and sensual activities, we may not be inclined to devotional service, because devotional service really entails the active use of senses and emotions, just redirecting them towards Krishna. And Prabhupada, well, actually it's Lord Chaitanya originally who gave Rupa and Sanatan the example of when they were working for Nawab Hussain Shah, of the woman who's married, and has a paramour, a lover on the side, and how she carries out her household duties even better than before, because she doesn't want her husband to suspect anything, but she's constantly thinking of her lover as she's doing her activities. So there's a example given that we can relate to. Oh, I mean, not hopefully not directly, but we can imagine, and it can be applied to devotional service. And interestingly, as a bit of, not exactly an aside, because this chapter is about Akrura, it very much applies to Akrura and his life. He had 12 brothers, and they were all, Kshatriya-ish, but they fled, they left Mathura and were hiding from Kamsa. But Akrura took a different strategy, right? He was very shrewd. He was really very politically shrewd. And so he got a post in Kamsa's cabinet as a minister, so that one day, well, as we're seeing in this chapter, he could see Krishna in Vrindavan, and also he could see the end of the impious rule of Kamsa. So just to accomplish those two goals, he served Kamsa loyally for 12 years. Think of his determination, his eagerness to see Krishna, that he did that. So he would externally praise Kamsa and his, great administrative abilities, but internally he was meditating on Krishna. And just as another aside, again, not an aside, but a little bit more about Akrura, is that the question might be, how is it that he served a demon for so long? How did he get the qualification to see Krishna? But actually, he did a lot of service for devotees. He at one point, he prevented Kamsa from sending his army to Nandagram. And so that way he protected the Brijbasis. And he personally took advantage of his position to offer service to Vasudeva and Devaki when they were in prison. It's even said that he was so eager to reach Nandagram quickly that he forgot to break his Ekadasi fast that day when he was going to Nandagram. So Akrura, like I kind of tongue-in-cheek said that he got a bad rap in this chapter from the gopis, but he was an amazing devotee, and so much so that he got this, all the great things, the vision of Krishna and Balaram in the water and in the chariot and all of those things. But back to the focus of this talk, and that is how we can open our eyes to see the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the teachings of Lord Krishna and the Bhagavatam as we're dealing with the world. Again, another example, and this could be done pretty much any time of any day. Let me just get it here. Okay, so if we just open up a newspaper and we're remembering that Krishna says Dukkalaya, that alaya means a place, right? Like a Bhojanalaya is a place you get bhog, you get food. Aushodalaya means medicine, a place you get medicine. So Krishna certifies this place, Dukkalaya, a place you get unhappiness. And he also says Anityam Asukam Loka, that it's a place, Asukam. Sukha means happiness, Asukha means the opposite. So we just open up a newspaper any day, like this morning, and right, you see the first thing is this terrible war in Israel, and that, of course, in Gaza, that takes the main headlines. I'm showing you that I'm very intellectual. I read the New York Times. And then all the politics that are going on, and the Republicans can't find a speaker, and one person resigns, another person gets kicked out. And then anything to do with our past president, no comment. then protecting the Kali Yuga's newest invention of artificial intelligence and the internet, and how to protect your child from those terrible things. And the solar eclipse, which people think is really cool, but we would say is not very auspicious. Oh, and then don't forget there's a war in Ukraine. Oh, and then don't forget all those nice things that you give your child, those sweets and the Skittles and all that. They're terrible. They're carcinogenic. And it goes on. And we can confirm what Krishna says in the Gita, to kalayam asashratam. And we can also confirm in our own life, because we have the threefold miseries. What are the threefold miseries? Adhyatmic, adhibautic, adhidaivic. So the miseries caused by other living entities, and that includes people. Yes, I would have sang the song, by the way, Kartik, but I decided to save you. I'm just looking at the chat there. And there's one that we experience probably regularly is klesha, or troubles caused by our mind and senses, and then periodically by the environment, whether it's the weather or just like I'm a consultant for an organization that does food, that distributes food. This is not prasadam, this is just food. Well, most of it's vegetarian. And they just go to they were immediately flew into Hawaii to feed people there. They are regularly right now in Ukraine. They so that's caused by other living entities. But then they deal with earthquake in I can't even remember. Is there one in Morocco and then one in Afghanistan? And now they're trying to figure out how to get into Gaza. But the point is that that there are incredible sufferings often due to difficulties caused by Mother Nature. So again, we can read about that in this shastra, and it's and then we should be able to see it in the world. And like I said, Krishna says that several times in the Gita. When it comes to analogy, and analogies are Prabhupada uses them, Krishna uses them. Anyone can put in the chat or go off of mute, think of some analogies that you can think of that are used either in the Gita or by Prabhupada or by other devotees. Because they're powerful and they help us understand things about bhakti.
Krishna's the fire and we're the sparks from the fire.
Okay, Krishna's the fire and we're the sparks from the fire. Wonderful. So if you're roasting vegan marshmallows and you see sparks flying out of the fire, you can think of that. Yes. What else?
The sun and the sunlight, and the sunlight being like similar to the sun, but not as powerful as the sun, I guess.
Right. Very good. Yes. And that week, here in Washington, D.C., not today, we can't see the sun, but usually you can. And so you can think like that. Yes. Others?
Hand in the stomach.
Hand in the stomach. Just try to take that gorunga potatoes and just put it directly into your the hand, the mouth also, that feed, directly into your stomach, right, and not through the mouth. And so we have to serve Krishna. Yes. Anyway, I remember one time many years ago, before computers, Naranjan Maharaj had put together like a whole book of metaphors and analogies. So, but we should challenge ourselves to not just, we have a morning where we chant our rounds and hopefully we do some reading and we maybe hear Bhakti Center class, and then many of us have to go out into the world and deal with it in different ways. And it's not the time to set aside the teachings, but to find ways to to visualize the teaching. The Sanskrit is a shastra chakshus, right? To see through the eyes of the scriptures. And that is when, our bhakti, our Krishna consciousness really comes alive. I'm not suggesting you dovetail all the songs that you know necessarily. Those came to my mind when I was thinking of this class today. But there's practically unlimited opportunities to, bhakti is very much a practical way of life, not just something of religion that we do on the side. And there's pretty much unlimited ways that we can remember Krishna through our experiences in this world, while remembering that metaphors, analogies only go so far when we're talking about something like this chapter of the Gita, where so Srila Prabhupada would say, here's another example, that the love of a mother for her child is the closest thing to pure love in this world. And for loving mothers in the world, it is incredible. It is an incredibly intense love. And at the same time, even that is a glimpse only of the love that for example, the gopis here are experiencing for Krishna. So what comments, questions, thoughts do y'all have?
Prabhu, can you hear me okay?
Yes, clear, loud and clear.
Extrapolating on your extrapolation. The wonderful analogy of the gopis longing for Krishna, especially as the chariot goes away, and how sometimes we were watching Radhanath Swami's vehicle drive away from the apartment and go around the corner. He's like, wow, when he was here last time. But the opposite analogy of like when somebody's coming in at the airport, you showed all those signs of people holding up the welcome, 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 and they're there for one person. And everybody else goes by and as if they don't significant or don't even practically exist, or they don't care about whether they live or die, But when their girlfriend comes, or when, oh my, oh hello, it's like amazing. So we had an experience, by Prabhupada's grace, our experience was to distribute books and collect donations and approach people at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And there we approach everyone. And you can't just do this mechanically. It's Krishna's grace flowing through us. It's definitely how wonderful is Krishna that he can empower us to reach out to someone that we never even knew existed, never saw, never met, and then in just a few moments, greet them, approach them, interact with them, and offer them access to probably the best thing they've ever done in their life. Engage in devotional service by receiving literature or giving a donation or both. And but you approach everyone. And we went to we came to visit New York City when we were traveling, collecting donations for the Bhakti Center building. And I came into New York, and my brother and sister live out on Long Island, out in Bay Shore. And so when I went to visit them, because I was here in the States, they brought me out to the beach. There's Robert Moses State Park. You've ever been there?
Oh yeah, I grew up in Great Neck, so I know it well.
Out there, and I was sitting there chanting, and the beach was all these people on beach blankets stretched out in every direction, right? And I told my sister, I've worked here. She said, you work at the beach? I said, well, I've done Sankirtan here. What's that? I said, well, I would go to every single blanket and talk to every single person and, collect donations and she said, "Oh, that's horrible. Don't talk to anybody. We just want to be here by ourselves. We don't want all these other people here, So there's an interesting, the Prabhupada says that there are different levels of maturity. And in the beginning stage of maturity, we appreciate the spiritual master and Krishna. But then it says, if all you see is Krishna and you don't see the others, then it's like pouring ghee on ashes instead of on the sacrificial fire. So beyond extrapolating, believe it or not, as far as I can, maybe I'm wrong, you can correct me, extrapolating on just being totally in love with Krishna. Rupa Goswami says if we reawaken our love for Krishna, our genuine affection for everyone, our genuine affection for everyone is awakened. So when we have this Sankirtan mood, this book distribution mood, this outreach, and we approach everyone, it's incredible. It's just incredible. And it's only, it's an aspect of Krishna consciousness, but as far as I can understand, if a gopi were to think, how can I please Krishna? And understanding that Krishna, the thing that pleases Krishna the most is to give Krishna consciousness to others, then they would probably go out on Sankirtan.
Well,
Prabhupada left Vrindavan and he came to New York. He was in Vrindavan, So, I mean, beyond Vrindavan, there might be something that, maybe what I'm saying is Krishna conscious, or maybe just speculation. You can
no, there's a few things that you just brought up that are helpful. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. One is that Prabhupada said Sankirtan is in the mood of the gopis, because the gopis were always pushing other gopis in front of them towards Krishna. No, you go see Krishna first. So the mood of a devotee is, you please go ahead of me and come closer to Krishna. Also, what you're saying is, so we can apply, again, our philosophy or our theology in our practical services. So we hear in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vangso, Jiva Loke, Jiva Puta Sanatana. Everyone is Krishna's eternal servant. And we also then, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we hear how the members of the Panchatattva did not discriminate who was a qualified candidate and who was an unqualified candidate. And I also spent some years in airports, not traveling, but distributing books in the 70s and early 80s. And I remember applying that, because otherwise I would see a businessman walk by and I said, this person's never going to be interested, right? And then I'd see a person just got out of the military and 20 years old or 22, and oh no, he might be. And sometimes he would tell me to get lost, and the businessman would say, oh, I was looking for a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. So you just never know. And so there's another way of another aspect of making the theology of bhakti relevant in our lives is in our service to Krishna. Thank you very much, Adi Pushpu. Other comments, questions? It is.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for this class. And I wanted to ask, because what I'm noticing in the various Leela is there's this tendency for, like, a Narada will show up, and then, like, right now I'm reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and he'll be like, go there, and Narada's like, out. One verse, and he leaves. And then, like, a lot of times in Bhagavatam, you'll see that it's like, all right, this part of the story's over, and then they leave, and it's like one verse and they're out, and then it goes on to the next thing. But when we hear these stories of the gopis and Krishna leaving, it's verse after verse after verse after verse. And it seems like when Krishna leaves the gopis, it's like a thing. But when Krishna or anybody leaves in any other Leela, it's just like, all right, and then they left and it's over. And so is that me making that up in my head, or is that a real thing? Is that a device that's going on here?
Do you ever stop making things up in your head? I would only read into it the positive and not the first part, like, yeah, it's no big deal, Krishna's gone, what's for supper. That just like our Adi Purush was saying, Prabhu was saying about even not even, but Radhanath Swami leaving and seeing the car turn the corner on 3rd Street or whatever it is. But I think it's fair to say there is definitely an emphasis here, and that's because those feelings of Mahabhava, of the Madana and Mohana, different. And then there's Sambhoga and Vipralambha, the coming together and the separation is especially felt by the gopis, but it's not only the gopis. Yashoda, there's discussions about how she didn't even keep, the house was a mess. There's cobwebs everywhere just because she couldn't function out of her intense love for Krishna. So it wasn't only the gopis, but yes, these moods of separation is felt especially or most deeply in Vraj. But that doesn't mean it's not felt elsewhere at all. And just because maybe, already the Brihat Bhagavatam is a big book, right? Right. So I wouldn't read.
I don't mean to.
Yeah, no. Yes. I know that. I know you don't. So I wouldn't read too much into that part, but I would read a lot into the significance of the mood of separation and the mood of coming together, Sambhoga, in the residents of Vrindavan, and especially the gopis, because that has been written about not only here in the Bhagavatam, elsewhere in volumes. And there's great, because that Lord Chaitanya says that's the highest form of worship is in separation, right? Because it's so intense that here's another song. What was it? Carly Simon, Anticipation, right? It's keeping me way waiting. Right?
Oh, I'm going to do solid gold hits after this.
Yeah. But that it's a good song in that sense. That the and she even says these are the good old days, right? Mm-hmm. The anticipation is a very intense thing. And then when you see something like just like, let's say your child has gone away to camp or something, and then you're at home and you see one of their shoes, and that just, you don't see the child, but you just see the shoes. That the shoes are an impetus for that love, and this is explained in Nectar of Devotion.
Oh, that's like when Prabhupada says to when does he say that? When you see your guru's typewriter, what do you think?
Yeah, very nice. Yes, is that all right?
That was wonderful. I just have one other question. We talked about the anticipation of separation. Mm-hmm. Is there something? Is that called something? And then the welcome, the anticipation of welcome. Does that have an?
I think it does, but I'm not an expert. I thought it was Mohana Mahabhava, but don't quote me on that. I might have gotten that wrong.
Hare Krishna.
But it does have a name, yes. And then finally, Bhima Prabhu. He has his hand up, but we don't. Oh, there he is. He's manifest now. He was Aprakat. Now he's Prakat.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for a wonderful class and all the golden oldies. As a child of the 60s, I remember hearing these with an innocent mind and actually feeling them a bit, leaving on a jet plane, etc. There's something that that we can all experience now, which is somewhat similar, and we don't have to extrapolate too much, and that is separation from devotees. I have a uh, have had experience of being very intimately tied to the devotees, very traveling with and living with and doing service with, hand in hand, huge missions, huge big projects and stuff like that, working very closely, and then being very, very isolated for many years from the devotees, and then coming back. And even in the little sense that when I come to New York, there's devotees all working together on our project, hostel project in Manhattan, and the Bhakti Center, seeing the Bhakti Center, visiting there, etc. The joy that, in fact, I can't even describe it. It's not so much joy; it's just this feeling of coming home, of feeling at home, and then of course comes the time for myself to drive back to the country where I'm basically isolated, except for the animals, which I'm more a part of now. But I can feel it. It's palpable. It's actually physically palpable to drive away from the devotees. What happens is the world rushes in.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the ocean, the salt water rushes into the shore of the beach. It's sort of like that mood sweeps over me. Well, here comes the world now. And I do notice one thing, that though I'm dealing with what appears to be very worldly matters when I'm in Manhattan, a lot of troublesome, a lot of business, it is not exhausting at all. I do not feel my energy being drained because we are doing this in service. And number one, and number two, because I am in the association of devotees, that enthusiasm.
Bhima Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because you're draining everyone else's energy.
Thank you, Ananda Vihari. I'll talk to you later. Well, if that's the case, anyways, I feel very enlivened by the association of devotees, and when I'm separated from devotees, or even when this class ends, when really, truthfully, when the class ends, all of a sudden I'm alone with my own mind again, and it's very scary.
That's what Lord Chaitanya does say that, and we might ask, how do we know when we have Krishna's mercy? And one way is that you get the association of his devotees. And I can remember in college when I was going to the University of Michigan, and I would leave the temple to go back to my dorm, and I would feel that really intensely. Anyway, it is 8:00, and we should respect your time. And I want to thank Ananda Vihari Prabhu for giving me the opportunity to do a little service on a monthly basis. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Vraj Vihari Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu. Adipusha Prabhu is live in the temple room. Today is a solar eclipse, right? Partial solar eclipse. Is that auspicious or inauspicious? What's our take on solar eclipses, Adipusha Prabhu? Again, since your head is glowing like
I was in Atlanta doing Sankirtan in a parking lot, and there was an eclipse, and I just worked right through it. I mean, it seems like a cosmic event that everybody should just all of a sudden, it should be auspicious or inauspicious. It says when the initiation ceremony, purified or unpurified in any situation, when he remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, engaging in devotional service is outside of every other circumstance of time and place, and we can do that. It's not under any circumstance. Even if they hang you by your heels in the prison, you could engage in devotional service. And here comes Radha Muralidhar. Hare Krishna. Gopal. How do you go? You want to check the setting on the phone? see if the sound is open and sound and pointed right.
Yeah. Yeah, all good.
It's open? So they can hear the conch and then open the letters. For the table or whatever else you want.
Okay.
How much should I give you? $60, $80?
There was on this list. It was price for that. It was.
Gopal, can you tell Adi that we need him for the afterglow?
You need him. I have to stay on. You closed it.
No.
Hare Krishna.
Are you staying for the after?
Okay, if you like.
Yeah. I wanted to. First of all, we there's a prayer request from Bhakta Bill for his son William Jr. He's in the hospital. Let's all pray very sincerely to Krishna for William Jr. I personally met him. He's a very nice young man. Please, Krishna, take good care of William Jr. Okay. And then the second, I had a question, Adipusha Babu, regarding that solar eclipse and other auspicious or inauspicious events. Remember, you told me this story years ago how there was a volcano, right? Remember the volcano? It covered the sky. And what was the purport to that story? when something like that happens, what do we do? You said Lord Chaitanya's movement, devotional service over any consideration.
I was talking about how powerful the material energy is, and there was a devotee, he wasn't a devotee to him, named Aravinda, and he was right there where, it's a little difficult to talk because there's some chairs being moved. I'm going to go into another room, okay? They're moving chairs. Close the door.
Very nice.
The point is that material energy at any moment can dramatically just make a big disturbance. You know, it was Mount St. Helens, and we were on traveling Sankirtan, and we were in Montana, and Mount St. Helens is in Oregon, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles away, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, the sun didn't come up. I mean, the sky was completely black. It's very difficult for me to do because there's other people talking here. I don't know. Wait a minute, just a minute. And it was hilarious because I was traveling with one devotee who, you know, we would report to the Sankirtan leader every day, two of us traveling in a van, two brahmacharis, and he wanted us to always get up and chant our rounds, 16 rounds before we did anything. But this other devotee, he was from Los Angeles, and he wouldn't get up until 8 o'clock. So on that day when I got up at 4 o'clock and I chanted my rounds, and then I did the morning program, and I was cooking khichdi and some chapatis and a little camp stove. Can you close that door, please? And so it got to be 8 o'clock and it was still dark out. And we didn't have internet, we didn't have radio. And I was like, what in the world? How can it be dark at 8 o'clock? And I looked at my watch and I said, this cheap watch, and I threw it in the trash can. And then I remembered I woke up with my alarm clock. So I looked at the alarm clock, and the alarm clock also said 8 o'clock. So I was like, oh my God. So Shikshastra used to have this comedy routine, like a radio show. Huge cracks are forming in the earth. The sun did not come up this morning. And now a word about your hair care. You know, it was like, you know. And so like I was thinking about that. The sun did not come up. The sun did not come up. You know, now they're talking over here. It's difficult. I'm trying to tell this story.
Stairs at the front door.
What did you say?
To walk down the stairs. It's quieter down there.
I'm trying. So I jumped in the van, started throwing everything in there, and this devotee who didn't get up till 8 o'clock, he was in the van. And he said, what are you doing? I said, we have to go find some people, because we were out on the highway at a rest stop. And there was nothing there but a picnic table. We were in Montana, out in the countryside. And he was like, what are you doing? It's dark out. You're trying to wake me up at 4 o'clock, like you always do. I'm not getting up. You're fanatic. You know, no, you don't understand. The sun did not come up this morning. You know, he was like, yeah, right. You know, I got in the driver's seat, and he started to punch me in the back of my back, saying, stop it, stop the car. You can't do this. You know, I'm sleeping. You know, he thought it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and that I was trying to wake him up by changing the clock. So, Krishna arranged this Leela. So we drove a ways and we came to a gas station, and all this dust was coming down from the volcano, and it blocked out the sun. It was like dark, like the middle of the night, even at 8 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, he was laughing because, you know, he realized that I wasn't trying to trick him into getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I saw him at Rath Yatra a few years ago, and it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and he was still trying to finish his rounds. It's like, this is like 35 years later. He still had the habit of not chanting his rounds in the morning. But the point was with Aravinda, he was right there where the volcano went off. They were in the forest. And he was in a hammock, and he was with his friend and his girlfriend and his friend's girlfriend. And his friend and girlfriend were playing frisbee, and his girlfriend was cooking, and he was reclining in the hammock. All the birds were chirping. All of a sudden, the birds stopped. And then, boom, the volcano went off. And he went flying in the air, and he landed in the river. And the impact of the volcano was so powerful that trees big enough that you couldn't put your arms around, as far as you could see, trees were all knocked down. Just by the explosion from the volcano. And then right behind the powerful explosion was fire, and the whole forest caught on fire spontaneously. And he was in the river, and he got up, and he had like second-degree burns on his body. His hair was burnt off, and a lot of his clothes were burnt. And he had been pushed down the river, and he thought he just died and went to hell in 1 second. They were in this celestial situation, and then this explosion, and he never saw his girlfriend or his friend or his friend's girlfriend again. They probably died, And then 2 days later, a helicopter picked him up, wandering around in the burnt-out forest, but he became a devotee after that. He became very sober about how the material energy, this world is a dangerous place, and you think you're going to enjoy it, but at any moment, the most horrible thing can happen. And look at this war that's going on now. Overnight, all of a sudden, rockets and, people hatred and killing and shooting. And, so the point is, take the devotional service. And let's encourage each other to make our rounds a priority and get up early and chant, yeah? That's all I can cobble together. It's a long story, but I just told it very briefly in 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. We love your stories, Adipusha Prabhu. They are very funny and sobering.
Krishna.
And there's always a word to it.
Krishna.
Thank you. Adipusha Prabhu, Bhakti Bill, Venetia and Whiskey, Arjuna Prabhu, Yogeshwari, Bruce Almighty, Suzanne, your Narayani, Domi, Amish Prabhu, Amrita Kishori, thank you. We love you. We need you. Have a wonderful day. Give it to Krishna. Amrita Kishori Didi, yes. Where are you, on the train? Okay. Can't hear you, Amrita Kishori. We see your smile.
I'm heading to Bhakti Center.
Heading to Bhakti Center. Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, we're all should be heading to the Bhakti Center. Krishna is in the center of Bhakti, and that's where the devotees are. We're like bees. We're Bhakti oriented. Okay, Hare Krishna.